I gotta be extra careful in today's video because my podcast literally just roasted me for potentially being a bandwagon Laker fan, which I'm gonna leave a link to that in the end screen. But right now, if you subscribe and turn on our notifications for the latest podcast featuring myself, Get Like Hoop, and Mike Korzemba, you will officially enter for a chance to win a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X. Currently, there's only 8,500 people in our notification gang. That's probably the best odds out of any next-gen console giveaway that you could get on the entire internet. So all you have to do is hit that bell, subscribe, turn on our notifications for the latest of podcasts, and you'd enter for a chance to win. On top of that, if you could slap a like on that like button on this video, that'd be greatly appreciated. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The Los Angeles Lakers first got some great news today because I don't know if you guys hear, but Los Angeles is planning on completely reopening everything in June, which means that they're going to be open fully by the time the NBA playoffs come around. I don't know about you guys. I'm a diehard basketball fan, clearly. Otherwise, I wouldn't have this YouTube channel, but it's been super hard watching basketball games recently without seeing any fans in the stands. It's so weird watching players posterize other players or hitting game winners without crowds going crazy. Just the other day, I saw Jalen Suggs absolutely crush my heart by defeating my alma mater, UCLA, in the Final Four by hitting one of the greatest jump shots I've ever seen in college basketball, then jump on top of the table and look into a crowd of cardboard cutouts. So I'm sure that's not how he envisioned it, but needless to say, there's a lot of exciting things happening in Los Angeles, and I'm happy that the NBA is trending more and more towards normalcy and things are about to get swinging back to the way they were. But something that is still fairly irregular for the Los Angeles Lakers is the fact that they are still without LeBron James and Anthony Davis. If you remember a few months ago when Anthony Davis got injured, I issued a warning to LeBron James. Unfortunately, LeBron James doesn't watch my content, because if he did, he probably would have something to say about my most viewed video on this channel about that Delonte West rumor. But in that video, I said, if LeBron James and Anthony Davis don't start monitoring their minutes because they started a regular season a mere 57 days after playing the highest intensity basketball of Anthony Davis's career for sure, because Anthony Davis has never been into the NBA Finals, then things are going to be really bad for this season. But of course, LeBron James, and this is coming from a Laker fan, is clearly trying to break multiple all-time records. He wants to be the all-time points leader by the time he retires, which I believe he could do so. He's literally like 3,000 and some change points away from passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's significantly further away than ever being able to say that he's the all-time assists leader, but that's because John Stockton is at 15,806, which I don't think is a record that we're ever going to see broken until we see the Steph Curry of playmaking come into the NBA. But needless to say, you could agree that LeBron James pretty much played a bunch of heavy minutes in a bunch of meaningless games that eventually resulted in him getting injured. So now the Lakers are without Anthony Davis and LeBron James. And at the time I'm making this video, there is absolutely no timetable for LeBron James's return. And while LeBron and Anthony Davis have been out, the Los Angeles Lakers have fallen to the 5th seed in the Western Conference. Which means if the NBA season was to end today, our very first round matchup would be a matchup between the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Lakers, which was last year's Western Conference Finals, which if you're an NBA fan, that's awesome. You know, even though I'm a Laker fan, I would love to see that matchup in the first round, but if you're the Lakers, you'd much rather face off against a team like the Grizzlies or the Mavericks or even the Trailblazers as opposed to the Denver Nuggets in the very first round. So the Los Angeles Lakers decided, hey, we have another roster spot to fill. And they already itched their need for a traditional center by pursuing Andre Drummond, although he had a little bit of a tough start to his Laker career because his toenail fell off during his first game. But the Lakers went out and pursued additional scoring when they announced that they're signing a former lottery pick by the name of Ben Mclemore. Yes, according to Champ Charania, free agent Ben Mclemore has agreed to a deal with the Los Angeles Lakers, sources tell at The Athletic and at the stadium. Ben Mclemore's contract with the Lakers is for the remainder of the season, Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul tells The Athletic. Now, according to Champs, what Mclemore brings to the table, and I think he's dressing this significantly nicer than the way I'm going to dress it, is additional three-point shooting and wing depth with an opportunity to compete for a title. He had a host of interested contenders, including the Milwaukee Bucks. I've been following Ben Mclemore's career for quite some time because when I was in high school, I was absolutely enamored with the NBA draft and each and every NBA draft prospect. So coming out of the NBA draft, NBADraft.net at least compared Ben Mclemore to a more athletic young Ray Allen because he had a very nice smooth jump shot and he showed a decent amount of athleticism. As a matter of fact, many people thought that he may potentially be the number one pick in the 2013 NBA draft. If you go and look at the big board of the 2013 NBA draft, NBADraft.net even had him pegged as their top prospect. But unfortunately, Ben Mclemore got drafted to a team where essentially talent goes to die because he got drafted to the Sacramento Kings and spent the first 4 years of his career completely stagnating as an offensive player. Bear in mind, this is a guy that entered the league at the age of 20. Tons of untapped potential here that was not tapped into. So after a while, after having multiple seasons of playing meaningful minutes, with his best season being the 2014 to 2015 season when he played 32.6 minutes per game and averaged 12 points per game off of 36% from three. 2 years later, the Sacramento Kings elected to move on from Ben Mclemore, trading him to Memphis. He would find himself back on the Sacramento Kings a year later in the 2018 to 2019 season, but at this point his role was significantly more reduced before he kind of had a career resurgence with the Houston Rockets last year as a small ball three. Yes, he was listed as a small forward by both Champ Charania and by the Houston Rockets. Bear in mind, this is a guy who's 6'3". But regardless, he still averaged 10 points per game. He shot 40% from three by averaging 6.4 threes per game. He had a decent run with the Houston Rockets this year before he eventually got cut, and now he finds himself with the Los Angeles Lakers. So that's a little bit of a backstory of who he is. He's pretty much a player who had tremendous upside, but now is 27, 28 years old. He's essentially just another dude that could just sling it from three for the Los Angeles Lakers. However, there is a bit of a trade-off here. Throughout all of Ben Mclemore's career, he only posted one season with a positive VORP, which is value over replacement player, which is a box score estimate of the points per 100 team possessions that a player contributed above a bench player, which is rated at negative 2.0, translated to an average team and prorated to an 82 game season. You want this value to at the very least be positive if you want this player to be starter caliber, and he only had one such season like that in the 2019 to 2020 season with the Houston Rockets last year. Throughout his entire career, he's been incredibly inefficient as a scorer and has been a bit of a defensive liability. He's been a negative box plus minus player throughout his entire career as well. Now, I'm not making this video to roast the Lakers on Ben Mclemore. I'm just giving you a very legitimate perspective on who Ben Mclemore is. He's a very low efficiency, high volume three-point scorer. And if he spots up for three while Anthony Davis is in the post or LeBron James wants someone to kick it out to for three, then Ben Mclemore is an ideal guy to be on the receiving end of a LeBron James pass. But don't think this is a game-changing player that is going to come in and obviously put up like 20 points per game in a very efficient manner. Ben Mclemore is just a complimentary spot-up shooter, and to be honest, I'm pretty excited for him as a Los Angeles Laker fan. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about this latest signing by the Los Angeles Lakers? Should they have signed someone else because this is their final roster spot? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.